Yemen mobilizes the European efforts to pressure the Houthis and seek economic support. International organizations call for extra funding to address the root cause of the Yemeni conflict. Fires continue to devour displaced camps in Ma'rib amid lack of world agencies' intervention. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Shazad Abdelbaei. Chairman of the Presidential Council Rashad Al-Alimi accused the Houthi group of committing terrorist actions against the Yemenis and infrastructure. Al-Alimi's statement came in his current visit to Europe, where he urged countries to put more pressure on Houthis to make them abide by peace. This report has more details.
The Yemeni President Rashad Al-Alimi renewed his accusations that the Houthi group is serving terrorist organizations. President Al-Alimi said in a dialogue session on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference that his government has evidence that the Iranian-backed group has released dozens of convicts in terrorism cases. Among the terrorists who were released by the Houthi group were elements involved in the bombing of the USS Cole, which killed 17 American sailors in October 2000. President Al-Alimi said Yemen needs a big push from the international community to restore security and stability and to bring the Houthis to the negotiating table. He stressed that if the international community wants a peaceful negotiated solution, it must go through a comprehensive path that includes addressing all issues, including the terrorist group's abandonment of its extremist ideologies and at the forefront the cessation of repression of women and activists. Al-Alimi reminded the world that the Houthi militia is not a project for peace in Yemen, based on long experiences. He, however, reiterated Yemenis will spare no efforts until they dismiss this nightmare. The president encouraged the international community to further support the Presidential Leadership Council and the government, including the shift to sustainable economic and development interventions, and the bombing of funds and approved pledges to organizations and relief agencies through the Central Bank of Yemen.
53 non-governmental organizations have called for funding to address the main reasons of the crisis in Yemen. The organizations also stress the need to fully understand the implications of insufficient humanitarian funding. This report has more details.
As the international community gathers to reflect on the humanitarian situation in Yemen in 2023 and prepares to pledge funding and refocus political will towards addressing the crisis, it's critical to fully understand the implications of insufficient and inequitable humanitarian funding on the people of Yemen amid what has to date been the absence of long-term sustained solution to the conflict. At the same time, a rapidly worsening economy, decimated public infrastructure, together with a year-on-year decline in humanitarian funding, means that the lives of ordinary Yemenis continue to be threatened. With the economic crisis pushing prices of food and basic goods and services up, they are becoming increasingly further out of reach of many, and without steady sources of income, more families are dependent on humanitarian aid to survive. Women, girls, old people, those living with disabilities, and marginalized groups such as Muhammashin often struggle to access humanitarian assistance and bear the brunt of irreversible negative consequences such as early marriage, discrimination, gender-based violence, lack of access of timely and quality health care, and inability to live in safety. The vast majority of IDPs continue to be in high need of life-saving services, including GPV, child protection, health care, and nutrition services. Humanitarian needs have accumulated by years of conflict, and long-term flexible funding is needed to help address the root causes of the crisis and invest in dignified and durable solutions. Without this, millions of Yemenis risk being locked into a cycle of crisis for years to come. The NGOs working in Yemen urge donors to respond to those urgent needs to address Yemen's complex crisis by committing to the required funding at the high-level promising event to ensuring full and equitable funding so that humanitarian investment makes the impact required for the needs of all Yemenis.
Government forces stopped a Houthi infiltration attempt on their sites in Al Jouf. In addition, the sources indicated that the army forces stopped the Houthi attempt and the militia suffered losses in lives and equipment. UNICEF warned that the future of more than 8 million Yemeni children is at risk. In addition, the organization added that the conflict has hindered access to education for 8.1 million children in Yemen, putting their future at risk. The conflict in Yemen has left more than 2,000 schools out of service after they were completely or partially destroyed, and some turned into military barracks, according to UN reports. A huge fire destroyed the entire residence of 5 displaced families in Ma'rib as a result of an electric failure. This report has more details.
The displaced people are facing a new day with catastrophic events, from which they suffer terrible pain during the past year, as many of the displaced have lost their relatives and homes. And with this year, the number of fires is increasing in an unprecedented way, as it reached 4 fires in 1 month, affecting 12 displaced families. The latest of these incidents was the burning of the homes of 6 families at once in El Ghawi camp east of the city as a result of an electric short circuit.
There were 5 families living here. These are more than 35 individuals. The financial condition is extremely terrible. The fire left them with no home or shelter. Some of them went to stay with their friends or neighbors, and others went to their family members. We reached to the executive office and the emergency office, who called on the international organizations of migration and got us gallons of oil and soap. However, the displaced person does not need any of this. There are more important stuff such as food and shelter in order to keep the family and children safe.
These scenes have become disturbing and painful for these families, while fear invades other families, exposing them to such disasters, which may take many lives nominally, and their shelter is the same that was exposed to fire, from dilapidated tents and others. This family says that their situation has become very difficult after they lost everything they owned inside this tent. They have no food, clothes, or household items to help them survive, while there are no emergency interventions that might alleviate the severity of the incident.
The fire destroyed everything we have. It all happened in a few seconds. The International Organization of Migration came here. They saw how the fire ruined everything around, and they just gave us some beans, toothbrush and soap. That's really unbelievable. We are not in need of toothbrushes. There are more important things that we're missing here. We need shelter and proper tents to live in.
9 years of disastrous accidents to which the displaced are exposed in temporary housing, exposing their lives to death, while the responses of the organizations do not change with every fire that breaks out inside the camps, except for some promises that do not find any reality for them. That may change the situation of the displaced in finding suitable shelter that protects them from fires and harsh natural factors, at a time when the local authorities are unable to find a solution to this phenomenon.
A rights group announced that more than 100 people were killed and injured by landmines in the past 6 weeks. In addition, the Yemeni government warned of the rising danger of landmines that are laid by the Houthis in villages and cities. International and Yemeni reports revealed that the Houthis have more than 1 million landmines, including the marine mines manufactured with Iranian knowledge. Coming next in the news. The 3rd batch of the Saudi oil grant arrives to the port of Aden.
ننزل ندي ماء من الغيل والغيل هذا بعيد، كنا ندي بالدواب نعبي ماء وترجعنا. ننزل الساعة 5 رجعنا الساعة 9.
ما يجي لنا ظهر لأنه زحمة ما حد لي يخلي الجهل يغرق، وإحنا تعبنا زيادة.
وكنت أحس صدري يوجعني وعز قدرك ركبي يوجعيني.
كنا ما نستخدم حتى نغسل أولادنا إلا يعني بأيام معدودة.
كنت أغيب على المدرسة لأن كنت أروح الديمة.
حتى وإن كان يجي الأمطار تروح هدر لأنه ما في معيار الزرع.
الوايت نشتري ب30,000. هي معها استهلاك ما يغلقش معها الشهر.
بس راح تطلب الله ولا أي حاجة، عاملة كل شغلك على الماء.
Welcome back. The General People's Congress in Taiz carried out a protest to condemn the kidnapping of 2 GPC members. In addition, protesters demanded the security authorities to immediately release the abducted members, as there is no justification for their abduction.
We came here in front of the local authority headquarters to call for the release of 2 GPC's cadres. We were informed that they were detained by the security services. The security services are repeatedly detained members of the GPC as if they are seeking to threaten the party members. The 2 members were detained without justification and are being held without investigation. The security is holding them without any charge.
They were held in detention without any charges. Besides, the fake charges have been attributed to them. We call for the immediate release, and we call on the GPC leadership to support their members.
The United Nations Population Fund reported that more than 7 million women and girls in Yemen need protection services from social violence this year. In addition, the fund warned of the exacerbation of violence against women due to the deterioration of the humanitarian crisis, economic collapse, and disruption of public services. The report added that protecting women and girls from social violence remains urgent in Yemen, where girls are exposed to child marriage, human trafficking, beggary, and child labor. War in Yemen has limited people's ability to create or to find job opportunities. With no predictable end to the conflict in Yemen, the job market is going to remain affected. This report has more details.
In Taiz, daily wages workers live in tragic conditions due to the absence of scarcity of jobs opportunities during the war and its repercussions on the most affected segment. After Hassan Abbas spent more than 20 years of his life as a government employee in the Yemeni army, the Houthi militia confiscated his monthly salary and left him wandering on the sidewalks of the streets, pursuing any kind of job to meet his family's need. For 8 years, Hassan, who is in his 50s, has been striving for work for daily wages, succeeding at times and failing at others.
My salary is suspended and I cannot find a job. I move from one governorate to another to pursue temporary work with daily wages to support my family. We're suffering due to this chaos occurred and the regime fell down.
Hassan is one of more than 400 daily wage workers who take Bir Pasha roundabout as their destination every morning. However, they do not find opportunities for work, and there is no point in looking for work in other provinces. So that the common rule among workers in Yemen remains to live in misery, poverty, and hunger.
We traveled to Aden, Sana'a, and Al Mahra to look for work, but we did not find any jobs. We returned back to Taiz. We're jobless, and Ramadan is coming, and we have nothing to feed our children.
Workers complain about the limited job opportunities and accuse the authorities of failing to protect people who refrain from building and construction because of levies and hostilities.
Businessmen are afraid to invest inside the country because of the political turmoil, and the people in charge must deter those who extort property owners.
According to trade union sources, daily wages workers, craftsmen, and construction workers are the groups that are most affected by the consequences of the forgotten war.
The third batch of the Saudi oil derivatives arrived at the port of Aden. It came in response to a request by the Yemeni government to help provide oil derivatives to operate more than 70 power generation plants across Yemen. This report has more details.
The third batch of the Saudi oil derivatives of 75,000 metric tons of diesel arrived today at the oil port in Aden as part of Saudi Arabia's continuous support to the Yemeni people. The support came following directives of the two holy mosques, King Salman and Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman. It also came in response to a request by the Yemeni government to help provide oil derivatives to operate more than 70 power generation plants across Yemen. The new oil derivatives grant is an affirmation of Saudi Arabia's keenness to achieve security, stability, and development for the Yemeni people, and an extension of previous grants totaling $4.2 billion, the latest of which was a grant of $422 million. The grant was completed over a year and contributed to economic stability, enhancing the budget of the Yemeni government, raising the purchasing power of Yemeni citizens, and improving security conditions. It also contributed to improving the service sector, developing citizens' lives, increasing the rate of daily service hours for the operation of power plants, and ensuring the self-operation of power plants in Yemen. The new Saudi oil derivatives grant contributes to operating 70 power plants that directly operate hospitals, medical centers, roads, schools, government facilities, airports, and ports. It will also enhance commercial and economic movement, which contributes to improving all aspects of life throughout Yemen. These boosted trade movement by increasing working hours in shops and markets and contributed to enhancing the reliability in the production of power and the stability of the electrical system. The grant also contributed to reducing the difference between produced energy and sold energy by 21% during the supply duration of oil derivatives to power plants, especially in Aden. The Saudi oil derivatives grant has offered 224 development projects and initiatives across Yemeni governorates to serve Yemenis in 7 main sectors: education, health, water, energy, transport, agriculture and fishery, and building the capacity of government institutions, in addition to other development programs.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Yemen mobilizes the European efforts to pressure the Houthis and seek economic support. International organizations call for extra funding to address the root cause of the Yemeni conflict. Fires continue to devour displaced camps in Ma'rib amid lack of world agencies' intervention. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.